you've got that show, as I said, tomorrow night. Will you then be jetting off sometime soon to Saudi Arabia to watch Tommy against Jake Paul?
I'm not going. I
No?
can't travel. I'm not going to travel for a while because of this. You know, obviously,
Back.
yeah. So I'm not going to. I'm not going to risk that. I'm not supposed to be doing anything until next month. But so I'm just going to. I'm not going to do that. But I will certainly be at York Hall. That's not far for me.
Well, maybe you can get it at a discount or even free from BT Sport box office. You know, you might know a few people there.
Well, I'll have to have a word with George because he speaks to him most of the time.
What would you make of it? I'm sure you're not kind of devastated to be not going out there for the fight, but what do you make of this kind of diversion into that type of boxing? I know it's not quite the same as kind of the misfits and the YouTuber fights. Jake Paul is considered a proper boxer having taken this fight now, but it isn't the norm, is it? It's two guys who are largely fighting because of the reputations they've built up on social media and the audience they've made.
I think that's absolutely correct. You know, obviously Tommy is a pro and he's worked as a pro. He took time out to do the reality show, and obviously that's stood him in good stead as far as the modern world we live in now with social media and followers, etc. And Jake obviously has a background from that, very successful background. And he now, as you just said, he now holds a professional license, and but it's an 8-round fight. But it's a competitive 8-round fight. It's grabbed everybody's attention for various reasons. And they're getting, Tommy's getting life-changing money. And, you know, I can't knock that. You know, you're in the ring, it's a dangerous place to be. And, you know, my job is if I see a fight that I feel he can win and I'll put him into it, then I'll do that. And it gets him further up the ladder. Not only do I think he can win it, I think, you know, obviously this is a high-profile fight, but he's getting a truckload of money for it. So, you know, it ticks all the boxes.
If Tommy does win, is there a concern that he could go down that route even more, knowing how much money he can make, not challenging for British titles, European, and so on?
Well, I think it's going to be very difficult to, you know, and I'm not going to the specifics of his purse, but to go from what he's earning that to come down to another level is going to be difficult unless, you know, it is such a crossover that it is a pay-per-view situation. I mean, we're doing a pay-per-view on BT on Sunday with this fight, and when you think about it, I mean, they're both of them. It's an 8-rounder. It's never been known. It's never been known.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to do amazing business, I would imagine. You know, the price point's right. It's a fight that a lot of people want to see. I think it's going to do really well, and probably better than a lot of traditional boxing pay-per-views.
Yeah, and but that's a sign of the times. That's where we live, and you know, that's the times we live in. And people, there's no doubt about it now. I mean, you know, we always say, "Oh, it's a younger audience," but we always have a young audience. People sort of, you know, most boxers who sell tickets don't sell tickets to older people. They're the guys who go to fights. You know, they'll go and watch, you know, big fights, and people have got money to pay expensive money for ringside. But the nucleus of their fans are their friends from the area or wherever they've come from. And most of them are young. I mean, I remember that with Naz. You know, we built Naz up, and his audience was very, very young. So there is a comparable situation with, you know, the YouTubers and the young audience they have. But I think that the boxing audience is far more knowledgeable. When I was out in the States for when Tommy fought on the undercard of a Jake Paul fight, and Daniel Dubois was on the same card. It was a different audience, but they sat there from the beginning of the evening till late. They weren't, you know, that sort of exodus out to the bar and come back when your man's on. I mean, they sat there and watched and cheered everything. So, you know, I'm hoping some of those will become converts to boxing, because there was a lot of genuine. Well, I say genuine. There's a lot of what we would call, you know, licensed boxing was also on that card, and you know, with guys who had track records of being, you know, top quality amateurs and good pros on the card.
We've talked about what will happen, or the challenges if Tommy wins and gets used to that sort of purse. What happens if he loses, Frank?
Well, I fancy him. I mean, you know, this is you know, he's got a lot of pressure on him. They both got pressure on him. You know, Jake fancies the fight. I mean, it's not like he's had, you know, he wants that fight. He's driven us mad, and you know, it's been difficult to keep it alive, but it's been kept alive. You know, mentioned George earlier. He's been constantly working with Jake's team and keeping the thing alive. And finally, as I say, they got it over the line. If he gets beat, I don't know. I mean, I've got, you know, it depends how you get beat. You know, it depends how it looks, depends what it happens. I think it'll be competitive. It will be competitive. And I think it'll be quite explosive to start, because somebody's going to try and impose themselves. They're going to both try and impose them. I don't think there'll be a lot of going out and feeling each other out. I think it'll be a real, like, you know, a real bang up to start with.
Well, I mean, Tyson.
And if he gets beat, I don't know. We've got, you know, we have to regroup and see what he wants to do.
I mean, Tyson's famously said, and maybe tongue in cheek, that if he loses, he'll be disowned. I'm assuming Queensberry won't take quite such a hardline stance. There'll still be a home for Tommy if he doesn't get the job done.
Well, it depends, as I say. If he gets beat, which I don't think he will, but if he gets beat, it's the nature of how the fight ends.
Okay, all right. So if he got knocked out, don't bother calling you anymore. Delete your number.
I mean, I won't delete my number or anything like that. But I mean, you know, he's got to have the appetite himself. It's not what we want to do. It's what he wants to do if he gets beat. But I'll have to say this: if he does get beat, then, you know, then that is a problem as far as all of us are concerned, because obviously we wouldn't have taken this fight unless we felt he had the beating of Jake.
Do you think it's a problem not just for Queensberry, but for boxing generally, if someone who's learned boxing and developed that quickly can beat an established pro?
Well, it's not then, is it? I mean, it just shows you what the levels are. I mean, you know, if Jake Paul beats him, then you've got to consider him to be a decent boxer at that stage of his career. If he beats him, he's beating a guy who has got good amateur pedigree background, and he's beaten a guy who's undefeated, and what's he had now, about 7 or 8 fights undefeated.
8, I think. Yeah.
So that's a bit of a jump up, and this is a big jump up for him. This, you know, he's not like the type of opponents that he's fought in the past. So he is really dipping his toe. He's jumping in the water, Jake Paul. So we'll see what he's got.
So before we move on, what's your prediction for the fight?
I think Tommy will win. I think Tommy should win. He should win.
Points or stoppage?
I don't know if Jake can take a shot, but he's, you know, I would, you know, again, we'll find out about that. But, you know, he should. No, I can. If he's going to win, he's going to win it by a knockout.